What if I told you that one of the greatest heroes of World War II, a man who faced down a storm of machine gun fire and explosions on one of the bloodiest battlefields of the Pacific, never carried a weapon? Soldiers are fighting, falling, and dying. And in the middle of it all, one man runs towards the danger, unarmed and unprotected. He isn't there to take a life. He's there to save one. His only weapons are his faith, a bag of medical supplies, and a simple, desperate prayer. Imagine the scene, a hellscape of fire, steel, and death. This isn't a myth or a legend. This is the true story of a man the Army considered a coward, but who would go on to be celebrated as a symbol of unimaginable courage. Not as a soldier, but as a combat medic. He would go to war not to end lives, but to mend them. He enlisted, promising to save his comrades while refusing to even touch a rifle. His fellow soldiers, preparing for the horrors of war, saw his refusal to carry a weapon not as a sign of faith, but as a mark of cowardice. Soon they would be sent to the Pacific, to a battle that would become a legend of its own. A place called Okinawa. They mocked him. They called him a holy roller, a misfit who was putting all their lives in danger. His commanding officers tried everything to get rid of him. And tunnels, and they met the American advance with a relentless barrage of machine gun fire, mortar, and grenades. The top of that ridge was a meat grinder. The fighting was so fierce that the American forces were eventually ordered to retreat. Soldiers scrambled back down the cliff face, leaving their wounded and dying comrades behind in the chaos. He administered first aid, staunched bleeding, and offered words of comfort. He found men who were thought to be dead and realized they were still breathing. He couldn't carry them down, so he improvised. He tied a special knot he had learned in training, creating a rope litter that he could use to lower the men, one by one, down the sheer face of the cliff to the safety of the medics below. They put him on punishing kitchen duty for observing his Saturday Sabbath. They tried to have him discharged for mental instability. He was just a silhouette against the smoke and fire, a lone figure on a mission of mercy. The men below were astonished. The coward they had mocked was single-handedly evacuating the ridge. He was pulling men from the very jaws of death. But instead of calling for another medic to risk their life for him, he treated his own wounds for 5 hours, waiting until morning to be carried off the field. While being evacuated on a stretcher, he saw another man who was more critically injured. Desmond rolled off his stretcher and insisted the medics take the other man first. As the president placed the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration, around his neck, he recognized a form of valor that defied all conventional wisdom. Desmond Doss had become the first conscientious objector in American history to receive the award. It asks us to consider what we truly believe and how far we are willing to go to honor those beliefs. His life proves that true strength isn't about the power to destroy, but the conviction to preserve. It is a story of how one man's unwavering faith became the most powerful weapon on the battlefield, saving lives and inspiring a nation. The greatest courage, he taught us, is the courage to be exactly who you are, especially when the world is telling you to be someone else. He had earned it without ever firing a single shot. While waiting for their return, he was hit again, this time by a sniper's bullet that shattered his arm. It shows that pacifism and patriotism can exist in the same heart. It reminds us of the incredible, life-saving courage of combat medics who run into the danger that everyone else is running from. They saw a man who wouldn't fight and called him a liability. But Desmond wouldn't quit. He quietly endured the ridicule, holding fast to his two core beliefs, that his country was worth defending and that his God was worth obeying. This is where Desmond Doss was born in 1919 into a home built on deep, unshakable faith. The Doss family were devout Seventh-day Adventists, a faith that shaped every corner of Desmond's world. From a young age, he was taught that life was sacred. He learned the 10 Commandments not as old suggestions but as direct orders from God. One, in particular, was etched into his very soul. Thou shalt not kill. This belief was absolute. Surrounded by the dead and the dying, with enemy patrols still sweeping the area, he looked out over the cottage and he started to pray. He didn't pray for his own safety. He prayed for strength. It meant he embraced a vegetarian lifestyle, believing in preserving life in all its forms. They had witnessed a miracle on Hacksaw Ridge. They had seen a courage that was different, a strength that didn't come from a weapon, but from a deep internal well of conviction. It meant he observed the Sabbath from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, a day of peace and worship, and it meant he could never, ever imagine taking a human life. This is the story of Desmond Doss, the soldier who fought a war without fighting. Our story begins not on a battlefield, but in the quiet, rolling hills of Lynchburg, Virginia. Then the world caught fire. When the bombs fell on Pearl Harbor, a wave of patriotic duty swept across America. Desmond, like millions of other young men, felt that call. He believed passionately that the war against tyranny was a just and necessary cause he had to serve. But here he faced an impossible conflict. How could a man who refused to kill serve in an army whose purpose was to do just that? He found his answer in a unique role, a conscientious objector who would still serve on the front lines. The army didn't know what to do with him. In basic training, he became an outcast. He was eventually assigned to the 77th Infantry Division, nicknamed the Liberty Division. And on Okinawa, there was a formidable 400-foot cliff the soldiers called Hacksaw Ridge. The battle for Hacksaw Ridge was pure butchery. The Japanese were deeply entrenched in a network of caves, but one man didn't retreat. As his division fell back, Desmond Doss stayed, alone, unarmed. Then he went to work. Under the constant threat of enemy fire, he crawled from one wounded soldier to another. With every man he found, he would repeat the same prayer over and over like a mantra. Lord, please help me get one more. He'd find a man, drag him to the edge of the cliff, lower him down, and then turn back into the fire. Lord, please help me get one more. For 12 hours he worked tirelessly. He ignored his own exhaustion, his thirst, his terror. Lord, please help me get one more. When the sun finally rose, Desmond Doss had single-handedly rescued an estimated 75 men. His actions on that day were just the beginning. A few weeks later, during a night attack, he was severely wounded by a grenade blast. The war was over for Desmond Doss, but his story was just beginning. The soldiers who had once scorned him now looked at him with nothing but awe and reverence. On October 12, 1945, at the White House, the skinny, quiet boy from Virginia stood before President Harry S. Truman. His story is more than just a war story. It's a testament to the fact that heroism isn't one-size-fits-all. Desmond Doss's legacy is a powerful and enduring challenge to us all.